From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
and Corey Clark.
The finer things in my life, so I hustle.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Coming up on today's show, crucial moment management, the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week, and that fourth quarter and moving forward. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, cptallybar.com. That's the website. You know that already. Shout out to everybody who did come out and hang out and knows firsthand now just how cool the Corner Pocket is after Friday's happy hour with Jeff Cameron and Corey Clark. I've got a list of people. I just want to go and thank them now at the top of the show, Corey, if you don't have any objections.
Let's do it.
A shout out to Todd and his lovely wife. Was it Gina, you said, Corey?
I feel like Gina is the right name. Yes.
From California. Apparently, he grew up in Florida for a few years of his life and has been in California ever since. His late sister went to Florida State. It was his first time in Tallahassee. Wish we could have gotten the dub, but awesome to meet you nonetheless, Todd. Met a Chris, a James, a Tim from Cape Coral, who said, I think he finally got power back. Thankfully, man.
Nice.
A Kendall, Chris, a dude by the name Dan the Man, Brandon, and I think his girlfriend Aaliyah. And then we're going to go to Indigo now. Wes, Danny, a Daniel, my dude Tony Cleveland, a.k.a. Cleve Dog, Tommy, Chris and Danielle, Dante, Jonathan Cook, Bob and his son Bobby, Jordan, the man they call Van Hammer. That's my list, Corey. Anybody else you want to add on to that?
Tony Cleveland, by the way, is an incredible name.
It's amazing. He's the
that's
dude.
like that should be a CBS drama 10 o'clock on Sunday nights. Let's see what Tony Cleveland's getting up to.
He's such a nice guy. He's so optimistic. He's a great
that's
dude.
good.
Yeah, he's awesome.
There's some reason for optimism, and I would say all that is great. I want to give a shout out to the staples, the pillars, Shane, Michelle, James B, Eric Angel. They always show up, which is awesome. James B actually came to the happy hour event with Jeff and I, which I don't think he normally gets to do, but he came over Friday night, so that was fun. He's got a great tailgate set up, by the way. I hung out with them for a little bit on Saturday. And then Mark and Michelle from Connecticut.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all over the country, man. California, Connecticut. Of course, I knew Michelle because I met Michelle and Mark the previous week in Raleigh with some friends, just randomly. And then I knew they were coming into town. I told them to come to Corner Pocket. And I knew what would happen, that Stephanie would end up becoming her best friend. And it happened so quickly, and so it's just an inevitability that, yes, now they're texting back and forth. Did you get home okay? I can't wait to see you again. They've invited us to the Boston game. They're going to be best friends. So that's what Stephanie does. Just like with Shane's Michelle. Stephanie loves the Michelles, man. She loves the Michelles. But it was a disappointing game, but I'm glad that they got to see some fight. I hope the people that came from California and Connecticut stayed. Don't come all this way and leave, middle of the third quarter, and you would have gotten to see a little drama there at the end. So I wish they would have gotten to see a win, but it was not a 59-3 debacle like a few years ago.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to talk about fight quite yet, but let's get to it. Florida State loses their third in a row. All three ranked opponents, Wake Forest, NC State, and then this past Saturday, of course, Clemson, 34-28. We'll probably discuss at some point later on the show whether that final score was just indicative of maybe how close or not close the game was. As usual now, which has become their calling card, which is a kind of a cool thing, they look absolutely amazing on their opening drive, Florida State, when it comes to having the ball offensively. It's a thing of beauty. It makes you, I don't know who, I think maybe he's repped by the Sexton fella, Jimmy Sexton. But if you're Mike Norvell's agent, you probably should just always be calling Michael Alford right as soon as your guy gets the ball to start off a game, because they just go march down the field and make Clemson look absolutely futile. None of this makes sense, Corey. They outgained Clemson by 90 yards. They had 5 fewer penalties, 10 more first downs. And, again, it's a 34-28 game, but it really didn't feel like it was a one-possession game, even though Florida State, fought till the end of it. These crucial situations that we heard about from Alex Atkins during the NC State game that maybe didn't go their way, How many of them didn't go their way on Saturday? Because it feels like it all kind of started in the first half, and then moments once the second half started, it just kind of snowballed from there. I mean, I don't know if we expected them in 1 week to fix all of this sort of stuff, but the fact that they stressed it, it was something they obviously acknowledged, but they still, on 4th and 2, you miss a wide-open guy right pretty much in front of your face. You fumble the ball to close out the – I mean, you're going in and possibly – I mean, you're set up to probably take the lead going into the halftime, and then you end up finding yourself down by 10. I mean, these sort of situations, I get it, man. If they had better players, you feel a little bit better because you've seen the way this guy does coach with what he has. But I just don't know how do we judge what they are, what they can become to what we saw on Saturday and where they're at right now.
Do you think after watching that game, the totality of it, not that 5-minute stretch to end the first half and begin the second half, but the totality of the game, do you think that Florida State is an 8-4 football team? Ish.
Probably.
Yeah, I do too. Like I and that's why what happened in Raleigh still should sit with you and eat at you, because that's the game you gave away. I don't think you gave this game away. I think the better team won. Although, like you said, you put up 90 yards more offense. I think the better team won. I think Wake Forest is a better team than you. I don't like, look, you talk about, this is a head coach that preaches a lot about response and a lot about mental toughness. Well, that's 2 home games in a row where you've given up a 27-0 run and a 28-0 run in 2 straight home games. Now, you fought back. You had a chance late in the fourth quarter, get a stop, recover an onside kick. You're right there. That's great, and that's commendable. But you can't be a good team and give up 27-0 runs 2 straight home games. You can't do it. And Florida State has. So that to me is the most concerning element of it, is why does it, when it goes bad, does it go bad in such a devastating way? Like just a field goal in that instance, 1 touchdown in that stretch where you don't let a team go on a 28-0 run or a 27-0 run. If you sprinkle in a score of your own, even as your defense is struggling, you might win both those games. So it's a combination of the defense not playing well for a long stretch and the offense not being able to help. And then in Raleigh, it was a completely different scenario. The offense was just inept in the second half while the defense did its part. But so when you look at the totality of the team and where it's at, it's like, okay, they are an 8-4-ish team in my mind. Now, look, man, you have to win Georgia Tech. It would be nice if you beat them convincingly. You have to win that game to get back on the right track. If you lose to Georgia Tech, all bets are off. The wheels are officially off. The wheels are struggling a little bit right now, but I would not say they're off the bandwagon at all. Or the wheels aren't off this vehicle at all. You lost to 3 ranked teams, 2 teams that were better than you. That happens. I don't like the way it kind of spirals. When it goes bad, it goes really bad. That's something that what this man preaches needs to be corrected. And yes, you're right, better players would help. But still, they're not horrible players. And, so there's 2 ways to look at it, right, Aslan? Like I get you don't want, and we're not going to start right now about, hey, aren't you proud of the fight they showed in the fourth quarter? Which you could be. I'm not dismissing that, but man, that defense was a train wreck, in my opinion, in the first half. It was an absolute train wreck. It gave you nothing. And that is not a great offense you went up against. That, to me, was the most concerning part of the whole deal. Because the offense, man, you ran for 160 yards in the first half. So even if you want to discount garbage time, quote unquote, you ran for 160 yards in the first half of a game Clemson had to win. That is really encouraging. What's discouraging is how you play the moments. The turnover is a killer. Your defense doesn't force turnovers. As Norvell pointed out aptly, you played 3 ranked teams in a row. You forced 1 takeaway in 3 games. That ain't going to get it done, man. You can't lose the turnover battle like you're losing the turnover battle. And it's not like Florida State is a turnover machine, but 1 turnover, 2 turnovers a game would turn the game around, but you don't force them. And that's just that was really discouraging, even though I thought the offense, by and large, was good. I mean, I don't know how else you could say it. I mean, 460 yards and 28 points, man.
But, man, I think I don't know how many they got in the fourth quarter when Clemson kind of was like, all right, we've got this in hand. We'll let them, we just don't want them to get anything cheap. We'll make them earn what they're going to score. I mean, I should have looked that up. But going to the fourth quarter, this offense was nothing that you really want to hang your hat on.
Don't you think number one, you get down by 20 points because your defense, of course, does not get a stop. And it didn't help that the kicker turned down to the 30 and then one play touchdown. So that's 3 weeks in a row you've allowed the team to score a touchdown on the first drive of the second half. You've got to start winning these coin tosses.
See, this is the thing.
You've got to start winning the coin tosses. You can't let the other team have the ball to start the second half. Something's got to happen. You got to win a coin toss.
Fair enough. They got 169 yards in the fourth quarter. So then they had 153 in the first.
But I mean, I guess my counter to that would be
54 in the third, 84. My problem is.
But do you think Clemson, like Clemson's been ahead of a bunch of teams late in games? They don't give up 170 yards to anyone in the fourth quarter. What BC do in the fourth quarter, down 35-3 or 35-10? What did NC State do? What did Georgia Tech do? Like Clemson shuts down people, and especially when they get a lead. That's, Katie bar the door, man. You don't have a chance because they're bringing pressure, and you're not going to get back in the game. They are going to put you to sleep. Florida State's different, but they're 4-3. So you can slice it any way you want. That I do think, man. I do think that what happened in the second half, Clemson didn't have backups on the field, especially when it's a 13-point game. They're not trying to let you just go score. I mean, they want you to take some time off the clock, but they're not trying to let you go score. They're trying. Jordan Travis ran hard. He made plays with his legs, and then he made some throws that weren't easy, that were covered. So I don't think that you can just chalk it up to they gave up or they stopped trying on defense.
But it's certainly part of it, man. Listen, he did make some nice throws.
But then how do you explain the first half?
Well, I think
they gave up 240 yards in the first half. So they gave up more yards in the first half.
Like 90 in the first drive. And they can script everything beautifully. But then when the bullets start mattering, when the game matters, when the game is hanging in the balance, things go awry for them. The fourth quarter of the game is for Clemson thinks it's over. All right, I'm sorry, everybody. Clemson thinks the game is over in the fourth quarter. You all did too. You all left the stadium. Not criticizing you just stating the facts, everybody.
I'll criticize you. I guess my point with that is there's only 12 of these a year. I get the students wanting to leave. You got stuff to do. Recess is open. The pool's open. Bulls, pots. I got it. There's stuff to do on a Saturday night when it's 11 o'clock. I don't understand the other people that left. There's only 12 of these games a year. There's only 7 at home, or 6 maybe this year.
You want to get back?
It just seemed odd that they all left when it still wasn't completely out of reach. I get leaving after the 2 fades to Johnny Wilson didn't work, and it's still 34-14 early fourth quarter. Okay, the game's over. I get it, I guess. But people had left well before that, and that was a little bizarre to me from a fan base that has really showed out for this team this year.
Well, I think people want to enjoy their $345 Econo Lodge room. You're spending that much money on that room. You want to get back in there and settle in.
Yeah, you enjoy the amenities.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, so, I just think at that point Clemson is kind of, I don't want to say letting up, but the game it just felt decided. And then Florida State's not going to give up. Credit to them. But at that point, the game is lost. So when the pressure is no longer mounting, and he's playing a little freer, a little looser, the quarterback, things start happening. And it's hard for me to make that the silver. I know that should be the silver line, but I don't take that as a jumping off point. The fact that they ran down Clemson's throat, they ran the ball amazing. That to me
is the most encouraging thing, right?
Yes, they ran the ball great. But man, the passing game was all predicated on quick screen passes in that first drive. That was most of it. And then the second half, it came in the fourth. Everything else came in the fourth quarter. He threw for 115 yards in the fourth quarter when Clemson was all right, man, we're not going to just blitz and go nuts here and let you score a 70-yard touchdown on one play like you did against us last year. We're gonna make you soak up the clock as much as we can. And we don't want to give credit to the defense, but the defense kept getting Clemson off the football field in the second half too. After that first drive, mostly. After the fake punt, which, you have no leverage really as a defense. They held them to a field goal and then kind of did their job from then on out. Maybe a little too late for everybody. But, man, they got set up on that kickoff return and then an absolutely well-drawn up and I guess just absolutely perfectly executed trick play. And then if you count, then they do not count turnovers on downs. But if you include that into turnovers, man, the defense does not get a lot of favorable situations to try to kind of fight off of. And then and I don't want to sound, again, I don't want to be the Adam Fuller defender here, but when your drives start and you only got to go 3 plays to go cover 42 yards to get a touchdown before the half because you just recovered a fumble. And on the drive before that, you went only 39 yards on 12 plays because they turned it over on downs because they missed a 4th and 2 trying to go 27 yards down the field instead of throwing to Lawrence Toafili 3 yards upfield. I mean, that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not the nuanced guy here, but when you look at that stretch of drives that Clemson has on the drive chart, 6 straight scores, man, Florida State had a touchdown on one of them, but then they turn over it on downs. They fumble it. They turn it over again on downs on the fake punt. I mean, that's not really setting your defense up for much success either. And I guess maybe you're at a point where you got to take chances, but
they didn't. Other than the fake punt, they weren't going for it on 4th down in their own territory. Like even when you didn't get it because you didn't throw it to Toafili, you threw it to Johnny Wilson, and the kid made a really good play. Credit to him too.
Yeah.
But they didn't get the ball at year 40. You still could have stopped them. And I think this is all the part of the maturation part of a head coach. Like I was not in love at all, and I'm not just saying it because it didn't work. That is a perfect time, an opportune time to fake a punt. You're already down 17. You just got shocked on the first drive of the second half. A 3-and-out is not what you need, but that's exactly what the defense on the other side thinks. Wasn't exactly a well-executed play anyway. Like I thought Rector did good just to get 4 yards out of it, and you needed 5. It just that I thought that was a little bit of a panic move there. But I get it too. You don't believe in your you didn't believe in your defense. Like it just gave up 5 straight scores, and 4 of them were in their own territory that they started and they moved down. And that again, I get it. Like when you look at the total numbers, 370 yards. They didn't do much at all in the second half. They did get a couple of short fields, but you were up. You get a stop on you score, you get a stop, so you're up 7-0. You're getting the ball back. Well, that next drive didn't, and you get a really good, nice return from Pittman. You didn't do anything on that next drive. You give them the ball after another not great punt. Come on, man. Come on, Master Mono. We're going to need you to start bombing some.
Yeah, I think that's probably not happening.
But we know he can do it.
Yeah, well, they got a lot of guys that do great in practice.
Sure. So, but either way, you let them go right down the field. You just give them a 60-yard touchdown, and the defense has been so good at limiting big plays. I think they were 3rd in the country coming in this game in fewest amount of explosive plays, and that was not the case on Saturday night. You could not give this offense, this Clemson offense, which is not the Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence Clemson offense, you couldn't just give them free touchdowns. And I thought that one where you blitz Noles, who doesn't even spook him at all, barely touches him, goes right past him.
Makes it home, though. No, because no one, I get it, but no one's expecting it. So it's the give and take of it. And I talked about it on Dominic on the watch along. Yeah, I mean, Jamie's been blitzing a lot. Akeem's been blitzing a lot. So you're probably keeping an eye out for those guys. 3, we don't even know who he is on the scouting report. So that frees him up because he's not accounted for. And I get your and Ira's point, though, in the wrap-up that even if he does get there, which he did, what are the chances he doesn't have to take him down, but just affect the throw. Affect
it, and he didn't affect it at all. And that doesn't give Akeem Dent an excuse to let the guy run just right by him. He didn't do his job well either. But yeah, just that again, man, I'm not blaming Fuller for blitzing. Like maybe I would have used somebody else just because again, Noles is outweighed by 65 pounds there. I don't know how big a running start he would get to be able to tackle that kid at 255 pounds. But even still, it doesn't excuse your safety, who was a former cornerback, letting a guy just run free by 7 yards. And DJ saw it. Credit to him. He saw it and made a good throw, but it was such an easy throw to make. You just gave him that, and you had done such a good job all year of not giving up big plays. But you gave up that big play. You gave up another long Shipley run, I think right before the half after the fumble. That's a big run. That's a 40-something yard run. And then you gave up obviously the kick return right after half, and that's the game, man.
Also, second and 14 in the first half. That ended up becoming 3rd and 2. That angers me. But I
agree. But Shaheem Brown, I think is going to be a player, man. I got some good feelings about him. He played a lot in that game. He graded out pretty high, at least as far as the defense went. He played a lot in the second half. I don't know if Akeem Dent is banged up or he just wasn't playing. Well, he definitely wasn't playing well, but I don't know if he was banged up. But Shaheem Brown played a lot and played well, I thought, for a good portion of that game. It has made some plays for this team. But on that 2nd and 14, he takes a horrible angle. Mm-hmm. And that gives them 11 yards. And it seemed like every time they had a third down, it was 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2. And if he makes the right read on that little screen pass to the tight end on 2nd and 14, it is going to be 3rd and 9, not 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2. And then they, of course, get it. Because, look, Shipley runs really hard, man. He is a good football player. Yeah. And then the quarterback's a giant. So 3rd and 1 for Clemson is basically a first down. It's not really a third down. It's a first down. It's an extension of first. They know they're going to get it. And if they don't get it, they're going to get it on 4th down. So, that was a bad play by Shaheem. But you're right. Those are the plays. Yes, of course, the turnover was a crucial. But it's those little plays too, man. 2nd and 14, your safety, your talented safety. If he makes the right read and gets the right leverage, instead of darting inside and letting him get to the sideline, darts outside, makes him cut back into his pursuit. It's 3rd and 9, and maybe they don't score on that drive. But he did not do that, and they did score.
Yeah, a lot of the gashes that Clemson had, and we're not going to be able to speak to the coordinators this week because they're off this week, but the following Monday, not today, but next Monday, we'll get Adam Fuller and Alex Atkins and John Papuchis. But I do wonder how many of those sort of missed assignments, because most of the gashes that they had running Clemson when it was Will Shipley was linebackers missing the gap. I mean, just going into the wad of bodies and not covering an assigned gap, it seems like. And, Tatum Bethune was kind of the guy that got circled a few times. During the telecast, he did not grade out well. He was 2nd lowest on the entire team behind Akeem. So, again, is that being coached? Is that not trusting, your fundamentals? Is that instinctual stuff? We'll hopefully find out maybe a little more of that next week, although hopefully we'll have this buried and looking forward to Georgia Tech. Only thing I did want to say before we get to a little break here, Corey, and I hate throwing a bunch of numbers at people on a podcast. I get it. Like, I'll listen to Rosillo, and he just rips off, 20 dudes and their, points, rebounds, and assists. I'm like, I can't keep up with all this. But in terms of how the defense played, Clemson scoring drives, 73 yards, touchdown, 75 yards, touchdown, 39-yard field goal, 42 yards, touchdown, 31 yards, touchdown, 18 yards, and they get a field goal. Florida State, meanwhile, man, you want to talk about earning it. Their first touchdown, 75 yards. That second touchdown drive, 93 yards. And then the 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter, 60 and 94. So, I mean, when it comes to they had to move the ball. I mean, Florida State earned their 28. I don't think Clemson's 34 were nearly as equal and as rightfully earned as Florida State's 28, but that's not the way they count things. And obviously with them turning the ball over the way they did, I don't want to sound like I'm sticking up for the defense. This is more just I don't want us to give the offense – I don't want to celebrate this offense too much. The run game, absolutely. But some of the pass situations, the way they're managing shorter yardage distance plays, in crucial moments, man, they've got to figure out a way to get better at this. And I know he's a young guy. He's 41, man, but he's on to year 8 of head coaching now, I think. So we're familiar with what we have, who we are. We're calling the plays. We just need to be in a little more solid situation where this quarterback feels more comfortable, because when he feels comfortable, when there's not a lot of pressure at the end of the game or that opening drive, he looks amazing. But when the pressure is there, man, and things aren't on schedule, it's not the first read's not open, we see uncomfortability, which is not exclusive to Jordan Travis, but you can't have it rear itself when you're trying to go into halftime up and then you're down by 2 possessions.
Yeah, and it was a bummer with the fumble too, because he even felt it. Like he went and covered up the ball or tried to, but it was knocked out before he could. And look, we can give him a bit of grief for fumbling there. That's not great. Don't fumble when you're hit. I mean, that is a crucial play. He had a crucial fumble against Wake Forest too in the middle of a run that did not help. But your right tackle got beat by a top 10 pick. When we judge these games these last 2 weeks and how the offenses looked or not looked, I think that's what I keep coming back to, because I want to judge them too. Like there was that stretch where even though they moved the ball at times, it wasn't a complete 3-and-out fest like the second half of NC State. They did move the ball during that span where they weren't scoring. It was not great. They did struggle at times, and they didn't score points, which is the name of the game, score points. But, I mean, that's a good defense. That's what was so disappointing about the game to me on Saturday is Clemson's offense is fine. It's okay. Right. It's not incredible. There's no incredible playmakers on that side of the ball. The quarterback was fine. You give him time to throw, he'll make some plays. He'll eventually find the tight end you've left wide open in the flat somehow. And that's what I come back to is how hard it was for Florida State to score. And they did a couple times. inside the red zone, inside the 10-yard line. They had to go for it on 4th and 1, and Lundy barely gets in there after tripping.
Over. I mean, come on.
But he got in.
He did.
And then they got in with the Ja'Kai Douglas catch on 4th down. Clemson makes it really hard for you inside the 10-yard line. What does Florida State do? Hey, DJ, you can walk into the end zone here. We're going to be really shocked that you kept the ball and pulled it here. You got a tight end out in the flat. We just won't cover them. You gave them those touchdowns. And that was what was so discouraging to me, is like, if they didn't go earn it, it wasn't DJ running 4 quarterback sneaks and just bulling ahead. He walked into the end zone. And then he found a tight end, finally. He didn't see him right away, but he found a tight end wide open in the flat because you had a communication error. And that's something that just hadn't been happening with this defense. It just seemed out of character. The defense, I thought, clearly was the strength against NC State. And for the most part, I know they weren't great against Wake Forest, but Wake Forest made some plays. I don't remember Wake Forest just having dudes running free. And it just seemed like Clemson, a couple of times there was just horrible communication or not any awareness within the game to think, oh, maybe the quarterback will keep it here. I'm really stunned that he kept it here and just walked into the end zone. Those are back-breaking plays, man. And yes, it does hurt that you don't have Fabian Lovett, which, as Norvell said after the game Saturday, he was close to playing but couldn't. But that's good news for the final 5 games, so that should mean that he's ready to go for the final 5 games. And you might be saying, oh, great, he misses the 3 biggest games of the year. These 5 games are huge. They are huge for the future of this program, for Norvell's tenure, for this team, because they're all winnable. I'm not predicting they're going to win them all, but they are all winnable games. But yeah, I just, that's, to me, when you look at the two sides of the ball and what you're more disappointed in, I just think you do have to factor in, man, Clemson has a defense, a good one. So you're not going to just go up and down the field against those guys. They do make plays. And yes, they make a lot of quarterbacks look bad at times. On the whole, the way you ran the ball,
yes,
the way for the most part I thought Jordan Travis played, that was encouraging because you are not going to face another team like that for the rest of the season. And if you can put up 460 and 28 on Clemson, that should extrapolate to some pretty good numbers the rest of the way. You're not playing a lot of pushovers, though. Like, Syracuse has a good defense. Miami has a pretty good defense. Florida, maybe not so much. But you were going to face some real teams still, but you're not going to face a defensive line, a front 7 that has probably, out of the front 7 that play a lot, 6 NFL guys, 3 or 4 first-round picks. That you're just not going to see that.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't play down their competition either. It's one thing, though, to be able to rise up and play like that, especially with the way the crowd was early on in the game.
But how about the way they ran the ball, man? I am legitimately stunned, and I said it multiple times throughout the week. It's like, what? There's no point in even trying to run. You're not going to be able to run against this team, and I was 100% wrong. Toa Feely to me is a different dude. I love the way that guy plays. He runs hard. He gets tough yards, and he also gets some, he can make some big plays, but he's more of a tough runner than I ever thought he would be. And then Benson, I thought, ran like a man for a good portion of that game, too. I thought that your running backs were good. Jordan Travis's legs add a different element that we hadn't seen much this year until the last 2 weeks. All of that is positive as you move into the bye week. You hope everybody gets healthy, and you continue throughout the season. But I was really encouraged, and not garbage time fourth quarter stuff. I was really encouraged with the way they ran the ball against Clemson, literally the whole game.
Your favorite athletes, they're always striving to put themselves in winning position. It's about time you did too. You can do it with mybookie.ag. MyBookie's got the biggest online selection of odds and contests to fill all your sports betting needs anytime, anywhere. Bet on the NFL, Major League Baseball playoffs, RIP Braves, or play for a share of big cash prizes in the weekly blackjack tournaments. If you've been waiting for the right time to get in on the action, we're hitting week 8 now of the college football season. You've got all the data you need. That time, it's now. Make your winning move today. Go to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WARCHANT and claim your deposit match of any amount up to $1,000. Again, the promo code's WARCHANT to claim your bonus. We split last week. I thought Alabama was going to win. Corey said Tennessee. Corey was right. Corey thought Florida probably. I thought LSU. I was right. So we'll try not to hedge each other that much. We'll try to give you some more definitive stuff throughout the week. Experience sports in a whole new light. Make the season a winning one over at MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Promo code WARCHANT. Corey, you did mention these next 5 games, all winnable, all crucial in their own individual sort of way here for maybe the trajectory of Mike Norvell's tenure at Florida State. Sounds like the recruits liked it a lot. Keldrick Falk, 4-star defensive end, maybe a 5-star in some recruiting services, I think said that he's going to probably shut down his commitment. That's how committed he is to Florida State right now. Hakeem Williams was on campus, seemed to have a really good time. So, we heard Derek McClendon talk about the buy-in, or not the buy-in, but just, they're not going to give up. They're going to, grow closer. They have to grow tighter in these games. I mean, they've got a week to lick their wounds, and then they're right back at it. And it's going to be really tough to kind of get things back on the right track. But this is all kind of against the backdrop of everything that happened across the country on Saturday, too, where you see, Tennessee upset Alabama, and you thought maybe you could have that magic there in year 2 of their head coach. TCU falls down early to Oklahoma State. Year 1 of Sonny Dykes with his backup quarterback, they storm ahead and find a way to beat Oklahoma State. TCU's got the inside track to maybe win the Big 12. You see all this stuff happening around the country. You see these other programs that have struggled. They've been on hard times. Tennessee's gone through coach after coach after coach. And I don't know how many Power 5 programs, when a coach takes over, it's a good situation. Most guys aren't eager to walk away from a job that pays them $4 or $5 million a year. So usually you're inheriting some sort of issues, and we're seeing the way they're progressing. I don't know how much of that's factoring into other people's sort of psyche or the way they're grading things are going with Florida State right now. But what has to be accomplished in these next 5 games? I mean, is it get to 8? Is it some combination of beating Miami and Florida and who cares whatever else happens? Just when you see these next 5 games mapped out, what has to happen for Florida State to feel good? And is this going to be week to week? Are we back now to being week to week with this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's week to week. Look, I think at the end of this season, the way it started, and not just the way it started. I know you've lost these 3 games. You I hope are proving to the fan base and to yourselves that you're not overwhelmed by any of these teams. And look, I know that's a low bar to clear, and that's not, as Norvell said on Saturday night, they're not into moral victories.
It's crap.
It's crap. That's what he said. I'm not into that crap. I get it. Nobody at Florida State is really. But when you think about what this team looked like, before Norvell got here, when they played Clemson the last 2 times. Again, remember they were down 59-3 the last time Clemson was in that building, and Clemson was throwing fades to Dabo's kid to try to get him a touchdown. Sante Samuel broke one up against Dabo's kid because he was trying to get him a touchdown in Doak, up 59-3. Just an utter joke. No, I'm not mad at Dabo for trying it. I'm just saying it was a joke of a game. There was no competition. The next year, I think you're down 42-0 up at Clemson in 19. It's at least 28-0 at half. I think it's 42-0. So when you think about where you were in relation to Clemson, and then you think about the last 2 years where you're leading the fourth quarter, and then you're maybe an onside kick recovery away from having a real chance to win in front of 11,000 people, but a real chance to win. It comes down to an onside kick. There are strides being made. It's, again, like we said last week, it's not happening as fast as I know you want. It's not happening as fast as it has in Knoxville. I get it, but there are strides being made. It is a better program, but at some point, the rewards have to be in the actual scoreboard, and not just, hey, be patient, be calm. Go win some games, and that comes down to playing better in situationally. It comes down to maybe coaching a little bit better when it matters. But it's all a part of it. But when you look at the totality of this team and what you're looking for this season, you're 4-3. I mean, I think all of us had them penciled in anywhere from 4-3 to 5-2, being optimistic after 7 games. They're 4-3, which is not great when you start out 4-0.
Exactly.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. It's you don't want to start a 4-game winning streak and then follow it up with a 3-game losing streak. That's gross. Quit doing that. But the schedule softens up. And what I wonder about, and I wrote about this in my column, my biggest concern is, where is the psyche of this team? Does it still believe it's one of the top 20 teams in the country? Because I do think it's a top 20 team. I know they've lost 3 games in a row, but they've lost. Look, Wake Forest is really good. They took that Clemson team to overtime and should have beaten them. And y'all saw that Clemson team up close. Clemson's really good. And NC State is not really good, but they did have their quarterback for a majority of that game, and their defense is really good. So those are your 3 toughest games. You don't know this when the schedule's laid out, but your 3 toughest games happen to be back to back to back. And well, you lost them all, which isn't great, but they're back to back to back. You hope that doesn't crush your spirit enough where now Georgia Tech is a tough game in the fourth quarter. Now you go to Miami and don't play well. You play Florida, who's not very good. They're not awful. They certainly can beat you, but they're not great either. All these teams are so imminently beatable that you just hope that this 3-game losing streak has not knocked the wind out of you. And that you can't, because we hear all this time about response and mental toughness, like I talked about earlier. Well, now's the time, man. Yes, you went through a 3-game losing streak. If you happen to win these next 5 games, which would include 2 wins over your rivals, and you finish 9-3 with a chance to win 10 games,
that's incredible.
People in this fan base will be over the moon. And when you watch this team play, man, they aren't far away. They aren't.
That's not. But is that exclusive to Florida State and the teams that are not ranked that are outside of it right now? I mean, I feel like.
No, it's not. But I guess it's.
I mean, Kansas now is no longer receiving votes. Kansas is like, man, we lost. Did they lose in overtime to TCU? They gave up. They lost by 10 to Oklahoma with a backup. Their quarterback's out for the year. Yeah, LSU is on the outside looking in right now, and I mean, they could talk about losing I get it. Like, we're so focused on Florida State. And I understand what you're saying, and this team is so close from being, who knows, 6-1 right now, 5-2 possibly. But they're not, man, and it's like year 3. So there's a minority of people that are vocal and they are quickly hushed by the masses on warchant.com. Shout out to all the positive people. But I think that's what they're trying to voice. Like, man, it's not just – this isn't something that happens just to Florida State. Like, any team can say these sort of things are happening to them. At what point do we stop, not making excuses, but just stop trying to qualify and hedge and start really brass tacking this down to –
But is that supposed to happen after you lose to the number 4 team in the country? Like that, I get it. Like, before that, you lost to the 15th team in the country on the road. And then before that, you lost to a team that's a top 10-ish team at home.
Well, yeah, because you've had opportunities to beat those
and you've
teams.
Wasted them. You've wasted them. But that doesn't mean that things aren't better.
Right.
And that things aren't moving in the right direction. I get it. But, like, that's what I like. Losing to Clemson doesn't seem like the time to be like, man, this isn't going anywhere. He's just not getting it done.
All right, that's fair.
You know what I mean? He can't beat Dabo. Who has beaten Dabo the last 14 games? Nobody. The dude is 68-8 in his last 76 games. People don't beat Dabo. I hate it. I hate it for you.
How did this happen, man?
It's nuts, but that's the truth. People don't beat Dabo. I thought they had a chance. I thought they had a good chance this Saturday night, and I'd say it again. I thought the defense let them down when it mattered. But they all let them down. The special teams was awful too.
Everybody had a hand in on it.
Everybody really legitimately had a hand in it.
Coaching,
except my man Toafili.
Yeah.
My man Toafili played well. Throw him the ball, Jordan, on 4th and 2. Throw my man the ball. He'd have gotten you the first down. But I think the next 5 games is where you judge this team, this particular team, and in essence, I guess you judge where you are with Norvell after these 5 weeks. It's a 3-game losing streak, which are always tough to swallow. You were an underdog in 2 of them. It's not the end of the world to lose 3 games in a row. If you lose to Georgia Tech, it's the end of the world. Legitimately. Like, that's where you're like, okay, I would completely understand people jumping off the bandwagon and being all like, this ain't it. This guy preaches this, this, and this. You're coming off a bye week. You have a good offense. Like, legitimately, PFF still has Florida State as the number 9 offense in the country and the number 18 team in the country, which I don't think is crazy. They've lost to 3 good teams. NC State hasn't lost a game, but NC State hasn't lost a game in Raleigh in 2 years. They haven't. 2.5 years. Wake Forest is good. They've lost 1 game this year, and it was essentially by 1 play against Clemson. And then Clemson obviously is good and hasn't lost in 14 games. So they've lost to real teams. Now's a matter of we want to see where you are against the lesser teams. And again, it's not like you're expecting a cakewalk. I don't know how many of these games they'll be favored. I would think 4 of the next 5 they'll be favored. They might be an underdog at Miami. We'll see. But they can win these games, and they should win 4 of them. If they only win 2 or 3 or one, God forbid, 1 of the 5, yeah, man, there's a real conversation that has to happen. I still don't think there's really, I save an 8-game losing streak to close out the season. I don't know that there's really any trouble of Mike Norvell and his job on the line, but the direction of the program is on the line. How you feel about the program is on the line. And yes, I get it. You don't want to keep losing these close games and say, well, look how close we are. But it's better than 2 years ago. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, you can see real strides in that this program is close. They went to Raleigh 2 years ago, and Bailey, I don't know if it was Bailey Hawkman. I think it was Bailey Hawkman. Could have named his score. Bailey effing Hawkman. And then this year, they fiddle fart away and give the game away. But they were a better team than NC State.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's how much they've grown in 2 years.
I don't think people are disputing improvement, though. It's not.
So then what's I guess I get just being frustrated. But is that what it is? Is just frustration, which I understand. Or I don't get people saying this isn't working. That's what I don't get. Like, you can be mad about the losses and frustrated about how they're coaching in moments and how they're playing in moments, but also understand firing a head coach right now would be awful for what your program is trying to build. You either believe in this guy or you don't. You either believe in what he's bringing to this team or you don't. And I do believe in how much better this team is. Can this guy get to 12 wins and win championships? I don't know. But I think he can get you.
How many
can certainly get you to a 9-ish or 10-ish type window. He can get you in there, and then you see what happens after that.
Well, that's the thing. I think you're a Florida State fan. You still have visions of the dynasty and prime Jimbo Jameis run, and that is the standard here at Florida State, and you're not close to that at all. As you hit the midway point of year 3, and I don't know, man. This is me probably projecting. I don't know how many of these fans are really paying attention to what's going on across the country, but Tennessee. Tennessee will probably get steamrolled by Georgia at some point. Maybe they won't. Who knows? But
God willing, Aslan.
And that's the thing. It's like, well, we don't want to be Tennessee. And that's what people. Every other fan base, like, listen, we gotta hunker down with Clay Helton. We can't just keep firing coaches. We can't be the next Tennessee. Look how this is paying off. Well, man, I don't think Norvell is like the wrong hire or a bad hire.
I don't think Norvell is Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah. He's clearly, whatever happens here in the next 2-3 years or whatever, will have left this place a better place than he found it, which to that we would have to thank him for. But maybe you just didn't make a good hire. Like Southern Cal, like maybe Lane wasn't ready. Maybe Clay Helton wasn't ready. Maybe Derek Dooley, just because he coached under Nick Saban for 2 years, wasn't ready. Maybe, Butch Jones, just because he did well at Cincinnati, taking over Brian Kelly, wasn't good enough. Jeremy Pruitt, clearly not good enough. So you get this, we'll get to it, I think, at the end of the season where you figure out. Yeah, right.
But at the end of the season, right? I think that's the key to everything you're just saying. Let's see what it looks like at the end of the season.
Yeah. We always kind of knew that, but we get a little short-sighted here as we go week to week as we cover a team every single day on a podcast. But if they can play as good as, again, listen, they had chances to beat these teams and they didn't execute. Hopefully you don't find yourself in when you do find yourself in those similar situations, it is Georgia Tech. It is Louisiana.
Right.
It is Miami.
Because some teams don't take advantage when you play poorly. They don't get to hand it off to Will Shipley after a turnover. You know what I mean? Or they don't have that kid returning a kick 70 yards to open the second half. They don't have guys like that. And they don't have a first-round pick coming off the edge forcing that fumble. Even if your left tackle misses a step and doesn't play well, well, not everybody has a Miles Murphy that's coming off the edge and forcing a fumble. Or you make, the one of the plays early in the second half was just like it looked like Maurice Smith was confused about which way the run was going. And all of a sudden they hand it to Toafili in the backfield, and it's 2nd and 15. And Maurice Smith's looking around like, why did you run that way? Like, that's what it looked like to me. Like, he looked genuinely upset at someone. Not him for getting beat, because it looked like he thought he was supposed to let him go inside, and that obviously he wasn't, because it ended up being a 5-yard loss. But other teams that you're playing down the line maybe can't take advantage of it, like Clemson or Sam Hartman can. So yeah, man, we'll see. There's still some good quarterbacks on the schedule. Van Dyke seems to have figured it out a little bit, although they got up 17-0 in that game against a really awful Virginia Tech team, and hung on to win. So you're still not completely. That's going to be a close game in Miami. You're not going to go down there and roll them, but that is certainly a winnable game. It's a game you should win, and you should be disappointed if you don't.
They're not. That's the
you
crucial
should be disappointed
thing too.
if you don't beat Miami.
That is year one of him. They do not look good at all. That's the thing. I was telling Ira this.
Year one of Napier at Florida, too.
Exactly. I'm like, here's the good news, bad news. Good news, Miami and Florida look very bad. They do not look, I should say very bad. They do not look good at all, Miami and Florida. That's the good news. Bad news is if you lose to those teams, it is going to be exponentially harder to swallow because of their status right now and the way they are in their rebuilds, respectively. But, again.
And you go look at North Carolina's schedule. I think North Carolina is 6-1.
Correct. They're ranked now. They're ranked.
What would Florida State be with that schedule in your mind?
Let's see if we can pull it up, Aslan. Aslan cannot pull it up.
Yeah, pull that bad boy up. I'm legitimately because – they just didn't get a great break with this schedule, man. I know that's not an excuse.
Well, I don't know, man. You caught LSU at a good time. That's pretty cool.
But it's still LSU. You didn't open up with FAM like North Carolina did.
No one told you to book that game.
So, but I'm saying that's a tough schedule. That's a tough game. LSU and New Orleans isn't easy. Yeah. I don't know that North Carolina is going to win that game, no matter when you're playing LSU.
Yeah. Florida A&M.
So that's 1-0.
And Florida A&M didn't have like 30 players for that game.
Right, exactly right, yes.
And it was 56-24.
Shout out to Willie Simmons. He's a very good coach, doing a great job there. That was a ridiculous way for them to have to start their season.
At App State.
2-0.
Sneaky tough, though. That would be like at UCF for Florida State. You got to kind of factor that in.
Sure, but I still think it's 2-0.
I got you. At Georgia State.
3-0.
Notre Dame at home.
4-0.
Virginia Tech.
5-0.
At Miami.
We'll see. We'll even give them a loss there. 5-1.
And then
somehow 5-1.
At Duke.
Yeah, 6-1. The worst they'd be is 6-1, and they're probably 7-0 and ranked 9th in the country.
We say that now. Let's see how they do against Syracuse and Georgia Tech. Because if they don't play well against those, Florida State, I'm saying right now we can look at this and be like, with the way Florida State's played in the first half of the season with their schedule against this schedule, for sure. But if they struggle against Georgia Tech, maybe lose to Syracuse, you probably would reassess how they would play against Notre Dame or an App State.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. But when you look at the schedule, man. So I'm just looking at PFF, and this again, we just put plenty of grains of salt into this. Wake Forest, by PFF standards, is the 6th best team in the country, right between Georgia and Alabama. Syracuse is 11th. Florida State 18th, Clemson 20th, Florida 27th.
And Power 5 or of all of FBS?
All of them, all of them.
Right.
So those aren't easy teams, and NC State would be up there if they hadn't lost their quarterback. So these aren't. It's been a tough schedule. You're a team that could have used such a soft opening, and you didn't get it. And you could have used Wake Forest not to be good. That would have helped.
Or their quarterback to still
Wake Forest.
Been sick.
Yeah, Sam Hartman to still have, God love you, Sam. Maybe some blood clot issues, just for that week, and then you win that game. Like our NC, you gave again. I think it all comes back to the way you view this team right now, and it's fair.
You glossed over them, but you did get NC State and their backup quarterback who can't do anything, and he had 3 scoring drives.
And that's the one you blew.
Yeah.
That's the one you blew. That's the game you blew.
Yeah.
That's the game where that's going to eat at you the whole year, because I do think if you win that game, at worst you're a 9-win team.
You should be 5. We can I'll give you 5
I think they should be 5-2.
Which sounds
they're a 5-2
so much
team, and they're a 4-3.
It sounds so much better than 4-3. Sounds
absolutely, because it's also not a 3-game losing streak. If you're 5-2 going into a bye and you just lost to Clemson by 6 points, you're like, awesome, man. Yeah, but 4-3, I get it. A 3-game losing streak, you just blew the game in Raleigh, which again, you blew it. It's your job is to win games, not come close. Your job is to win games, and you didn't win it, but. You built a team that was a absolute train wreck dumpster fire. And you built it into a team that, again, is anywhere, in my opinion, from 18 to 30, however you want to rank these teams. They're not going to get blown off the field. They shouldn't be anyway by anyone. They can play with almost anyone. 2 years ago, they couldn't play. You couldn't say that about but maybe 8 teams in the Power 5. They were awful. And last year they started out awful, and now they've proven where they're right in the thick of things. But again, it's about playing those situations better, getting better players. That always helps in winning those close moments instead of losing them. and not melting down to give the team a 27-0 run or a 28-0 run. And I think that's from top down. Like, again, this head coach preaches mental toughness and response a lot. He believes in it with all his heart. This culture, I think, has gotten so much better. But, man, you cannot at home let teams go on 27 and 28-point runs. You just can't do it. And they've done it twice, and they've lost both games.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
You heard the man. Time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. I'm going to go to the hard court. Shout out to Mila Saric, Florida State women's tennis. She made it to the round of 32 at the ITA Southeast Regional Championships. On Friday, she smoked the competition, taking out Taylor Dean in straight sets, 6-4, 6-1, and then Katerina Philipp, 6-3, 6-3 from FAU. She's currently ranked 75th in the nation by the International Tennis Association. So shout out to her getting it done. I'm not going to give it to a football person every week, everybody. I'm just not going to do it. Not when they lose. Corey, fix it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Will Shipley from Clemson. I thought he was the difference in the – no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pick a Florida State guy, and I've talked about him already in the show, but, man, I could not be more impressed with the way Lawrence Toafili has become this kind of running back. He had a great run. It was in the Wake Forest game. It was still a loss, so these all get lost when you lose. But he had a great first down run against Wake Forest in that game because he put his head down and ran hard. And I thought in that Clemson game, Aslan, he ran really hard. His numbers aren't incredible, but, my man, let's look at it. He had 11 carries for 68 yards with a long of 25. He averaged 6.2 against Clemson. Trey Benson, by the way, averaged 9.9. But he also had 6 catches for 45 yards. And he was a weapon at Raleigh out of the backfield, too, catching the ball. He is turning into just such a better running back than I ever thought he would be, specifically last September. I was like, well, this kid just isn't – he doesn't get it. He's not going to be a great college football player. Now I'm not so sure. I think this guy is a weapon. I love the way he runs. He's so hard. He's angular. He makes guys miss. He falls forward. Just Lawrence Toafili, just the way he's playing, man. It's indescribable, I should say, Aslan. So he's going to be my indescribably good player of the week, even in a loss. Shipley, you get it next time.
Yeah. Mila Saric and Lawrence Toafili are Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week. And then on the way out, I'm not, going to pump sunshine. It's not what I do. It's not what we do on the show. It's not what we do on the website. Right. We're pragmatic, some of us more than others. Maybe I'm not as pragmatic. But hearing that Fabian Lovett's going to be back. Now, listen, they get a week off, and they're back home against Georgia Tech. We don't know, I don't think, what time the kickoff is. We'll have to see how they do on Thursday night against Virginia. I don't know, lose, so it's a noon game. I can't do any more night games, man. It's too old, Corey. It's going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning is just
3:30 would be great. 3:30 would be perfect.
I just want to be done, man. I don't even know if we got a good week of games while we're on a bye week here. But the fact that Fabian Lovett will be rested up and most likely ready to go. Another 2 weeks for Robert Scott to get right, Robert Cooper to get right. Who knows? Duke Cooper could certainly use some time off if you're looking at his PFF numbers. Yeah. I mean, that, if anything, should maybe even make you feel that much encouraged or just hopeful for these next 5 games. Everybody's getting banged up. Certain teams have already been on their bye week. I don't know who on our schedule remaining is going to have one before they face us here. But the return of those guys, especially Fabian, and then those guys being healthy or being able to execute at a higher level, maybe Darion Williamson even comes back. Maybe that's the one thing that we really do need to kind of keep a focus on here when we're able to see practice for the next week or so.
Trayshawn Ward, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, those guys change and affect things. We saw Ja'Kai. I mean, Ja'Kai, you could kind of laugh and scoff that we talked about him for 12 minutes on a show last week, but if he didn't have an illegal motion, he had a really nice catch, got a foot down on a play in the second half, and he caught a touchdown. So all these guys coming back could certainly help Florida State's fortunes moving forward because it's a softer schedule, but still tricky games at Syracuse, at Miami, and then, of course, the Gators.
Yeah, what did they call on that play? I know it was an illegal shift, but it wasn't because 2 guys were in motion, right? Because Clemson was doing that the whole time. It was just Ja'Kai or somebody else didn't get set.
Either he didn't get set for a full second, or he moved forward. Like when he went in motion, he wasn't going laterally. He actually move closer to the line of scrimmage.
That was troubling. There were a couple of pre-snap penalties. That one in particular that took away was one of Jordan's best plays. It took away a 30-yard throw over the safety. I mean, that was a really nice play, and you just gave it away because you shifted too early or you didn't get set, and that comes back to details. But, yeah, man, look, it's not just you're getting Fabian Lovett back, which is a huge deal. He's probably the best player in your defense or the second best player in your defense. Not probably. He is either one or two, depending on how you rank him and Verse. But
how about
Tatum
Jamie?
Bethune,
No love for Jamie?
And Jamie too. So Jamie's not 100%.
No.
Tatum Bethune is not 100%. Robert Cooper has not been 100%. Robert Scott clearly isn't 100%. Jared Verse isn't 100%. And obviously Fabian Lovett wasn't 100%. Well, they all could be close to 100% after 2 weeks off. Trayshawn Ward might be back.
Yeah, as close to 100%
as close as they can be
will be
in late October. Yeah. That I just want to see what it looks like, man. I just want to see what it looks like. They have been beset by not just crippling injuries, but nagging injuries, where the guys aren't really themselves because they're playing through something. So 2 weeks off for some of these guys could be enormous. Maybe Amarion Cooper too, because again, what was he on the field for 9 plays in that game, and he gives up a huge third down throw, just like he did against Wake. Yeah, it's a great throw. It's a nice throw. It's a nice adjustment. But they're going to pick on 13 right now. If he's in the game, they're throwing his way.
22, PFF said. They gave him 22 snaps.
I wouldn't have thought he was on the field for that much. But, of course, they threw to him twice, and he gave up 2 completions. This is not the Amarian we've grown to know. So hopefully that changes. But I just think that, it's not just getting Fabian Lovett back. It's getting these guys healthy. That I just want to see what it looks like for this stretch run. I think there is a chance. I don't know what percentage it is. There is a chance you look at these 5 games and go, wow, man, that was really impressive. And I just wish he'd gotten to see those guys when they were, if they could have been 100% for the whole year, or as close as they could have been to it. Because Fabian Lovett is a huge loss. It's just been a huge loss. It just has been. So hope, because he's a very, very good football player, and getting him back is almost like a free agent acquisition in the middle of the season, an NIL acquisition. So stay healthy, get healthy, and let's see where these 5 games go, man, because they have a chance at the end of the year to be 8-4 or 9-3. And before the season, if we'd have told you guys that, you would have taken that, especially if you're like, hey, man, Florida State's going to go 9-3. Their 3 losses are basically by a touchdown to Wake Forest, very good team. You blow a game in Raleigh that you should have won, and you lose to Clemson by 6. But you win all the other ones. You all would have signed up for that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
But that's still far away,
It's
though,
not
man.
there. Yeah, it's only 5 wins. It's only 5 short wins away, Aslan. But we're going to see Florida State at as full strength as it can possibly be in late October. Hopefully they can stay healthy and avoid this stupid injury bug that's killed them, and they can play those better moments better. But it's still all out there. Yeah. Everything you wanted this season to be, because nobody, I don't think, rationally was thinking about a championship or an ACC Atlantic Division title. Now, maybe the goalpost changed after a 4-0 start, but I think most of us were realists about what this team was. It's not like they blew LSU and Louisville off the field. So we knew what this team kind of was. So a 9-3 season, an 8-4 season, I think you feel good about the direction of the program, man. You do. But you have to go beat Georgia Tech. Get healthy. Go beat Georgia Tech, and let's just take it 1 week at a time, my man. 1 week at a time.
We'll be at practice tomorrow. As for today, no press conference, but be over at warchant.com. Irish O'Fell's 3-2-1, absolute must-read college football content, breaking down the week that was at Florida State and looking ahead to the future here in these next few weeks for Florida State. That'll be up on the website. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. And then we'll drop a pod for you folks on Tuesday, get you ready and going. And we'll be at practice Tuesday and Wednesday, interviews, all that kind of stuff. And then headlines as well. So it's an off week for some. Not for us, though. Sign up. Again, it's only $10 for an entire year. Wouldn't you please? Hit the thumbs up if you made it this far. A 5-star rating review on Apple. And, of course, podcast app, search Wake Up Warchant. Hit the one on the right. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.